82 not yet recovered Chibok girls from a ravaged northeast sub-region. Mr. Speaker, because of paucity of time, I will equally expedite by relying on the submission of Sada Soli Jibia on the provision of Section 141, subsection 1, that contradicts the provision that stand the supremacy of the Nigerian Constitution. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, we are all aware that essence and the purpose of every government is the welfare of its citizens. And whenever this welfare is not fairly or evenly distributed, that is going to cause chaos and is going to defeat the purpose of which government is established. I'm going to speak on clause 77 of the bill as submitted by the executive, which stipulates the vertical distribution to be 10% to the federal government, 55% to the state government, and 35% to the local government, while the horizontal distribution should be 20% based on population, 20% based on equity, and 60% based on derivation. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, governors' forums and other stakeholders have made their submission. I am a bit different from their position, particularly in the area of derivation. As earlier said, derivation is not clearly written or explained or stated whether it's a consumption derivation they mean or they mean generation derivation.
2 minutes more, please.
No, I have, thank you so much for adding me 2 minutes. Now I have 3 minutes, 14 seconds. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is they have not stated clearly whether they mean by consumption derivation or derivation based on generation. In as much as their position is consumption derivation, I equally have a reservation on inability or failure on the FIRS to provide the required infrastructure and the technology to track consumption in each and every location of the country.
Honorable Jaha, time up.
You cannot give me 2 minutes and retrieve it again. Everybody is a testimony here. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell, I still have 2 minutes, 10 seconds. What I'm trying to say in a nutshell, you are distracting me, I will add 2 minutes. What I'm trying to say in a nutshell, there must be clear definition of derivation as far as the governance forum position is concerned. If they don't have the technology to track consumption, and they mean the 30% is derivation based on generation, where the 30% of the VAT collected is going to be released to the areas where these companies are headquartered, I have a reservation. That is another thing. Secondly, on the issue of increasing the VAT, we are all on the same page that VAT should not be increased. But let us use the advantage in this reform to increase collection efficiency from 20% to at least 70% as is obtained in other African countries of the world. Absolutely. Lastly, I want to use this opportunity to correct the impression that minimum wage earners are not going to be taxed because their income is not up to 800,000. By my calculation and a simple arithmetic, my calculation is 70,000 naira being a minimum wage times 12 months is 840,000. In other words, that particular threshold should be increased to either 900,000 or something above that. Lastly, okay, it's corrected. Then lastly, on the issue of family income tax.
Bawo, please.
Yes, I will conclude. He was the one that gave me additional 2 minutes. I'm trying to exercise my right.
This is the last one.
What I'm trying to say in a nutshell is the family income tax should be clearly defined and identify what are taxable as far as family income is concerned. And the inheritance clause must be clearly written for every Nigerian to see that inheritance should not, at whatever level of influence, be part and parcel of taxes to be deducted when and wherever the need arises. I thank you very much for listening. I thank the leadership for taking a diplomatic approach to solve this problem. And we are in support of this bill to pass the second reading so that during the public hearing, each and every stakeholder will be allowed to put in their best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of Fika, Fune Federal Constituency. I'm from Yobe State, Mr. Speaker. All over the world, tax reforms are very common now. And it is a welcome development for Nigeria also to have reforms in its tax administration. However, I have some reservations, Mr. Speaker, and I want to align with an earlier speaker, Honorable Sada Soli, when he talked about fiscalization, because fiscalization can never happen without appropriate data. And unless we have the appropriate data, that is when we'll be able to get these reforms right, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, the federal government as well, at the center, and the subnationals as well, must have that political will, Mr. Speaker, to fund these reforms. We cannot just pass reforms and then all of a sudden we don't have the will to fund such a project. And then I want to also talk about a reservation, Mr. Speaker, which is the FIRS itself. Currently, they don't have a corporate headquarters that is well equipped, Mr. Speaker. And their project is yet to be completed. And the political will I'm talking about is for the federal government to make sure that the FIRS headquarters in Abuja here is completed and well equipped so that they can have, a national revenue data center where all these reforms and taxes.
Honorable Baba, please 2 minutes more.
Mr. Speaker, I want to align also with the last speaker, Honorable Jaha, about a clear definition of what the term derivation means. In the public hearing and the consideration of the bills, will come out with clear terms and explanations as to our reservations about the tax reform bills. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I represent the good and dynamic people of Askira-Uba, Howell Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Borno State. Mr. Speaker, please permit me, while we discuss this very critical reformation, so that I will draw our attention to a few things that I think is of critical importance to us in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, you agree with me that a popular saying said that you must be alive to save lives. And this has to do with some of the priorities we are considering right now. Having come from Borno State, and if you look at the level of insecurities across Nigeria, I think looking at the energy and the resources that have been channeled to this bill, it is important as a legislators, we embedded in this consideration that security of lives and property should be given urgent and special attention the way this bill is being given. For instance, Mr. Speaker, if you go to Borno State, you see that the biggest road leading from Damboa to almost 8 LGAs have been blocked. I think, sir, this is part of the bill. People that are alive that will pay for a bill, please, let us make this very clear. Mr. Speaker, some of this, what I'm saying, it has to do with the economic incomes of some of our places that are agrarian in nature. Some of the places that have been blocked for so long, if it is prioritized and given attention, I think it will open up economic income, and therefore it will make an ease for the payment of tax and other reformation that is taking place. Mr. Speaker, I want to join my colleagues to say that you have handled these particular bills with a diplomatic approach, and I will also join together to say that it's a very good reformation, but please, the security of lives and property should be given attention across Nigeria so that we will not be standing every day for 1 minute to pray for the loss of lives across Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will join also to say that no increment of VAT should be permitted in this particular consideration. Just as other speakers have already spoke in the earlier before me, that please no increment in the VAT should be permitted in these bills. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Honorable Toyin. Honorable Toyin.